welcome to Veterans Talkback. Hey there, my name is Louis Short, and I am on the phone today with Brad Williams. Now, you said you said you volunteered for the rescue, search, and seizure. What was your original rating before you started doing that type of work?
Well, I came in undesignated, and what that means is in the Navy, they put you in two groups. They put you in engineering or operations. That means you're either deck or you're engineer. And I came in first. When I came in in engineering. Came in undesignated. That means they put you where they want you to be. You know, you pretty much a grunt. You pretty much go in where they want you to be on the ship. And it was a fluke because you can pass for the exam to advance, but if the rate is closed, you don't really go anywhere. And deck division was open, and I wanted to make E4, so I passed that test, and I was got my E4 Mafia. I was in E4, and then 9/11 happened. And that's when Visit Board Search and Seizure was an opportunity for us to do something different and better. And so we came back to Pearl Harbor. That was my duty station. And we trained. We went through the training, the calls, and so on. And the next thing we know, like once we're out on our first deployment, we came back and we were. Basically boarding oil tankers. It was junks, it was dhows, anything that was floating, anything that was a discrepancy, So that's what I did, I guess, and we would have a blue and gold team on the ship. We had Kaminsky guard ship duty, which meant once we had the oil tankers or the dhows or the junks, we would put them in a box, so to speak, and then we would move later on. We had the USS Peterson, which was involved with this also, and basically we would board, search, confiscate any kind of items. We found anything from washing machines to Jeep Cherokees, to trucks, to anything you could possibly fathom that was not, tied down. If it could be bartered, it was a trade, and that was our job.
Oh, wow. So what would you do with the stuff that you would confiscate, like the washing machines, things like, or even the cars? What would happen to those once they were confiscated?
Well, first thing, okay. Imagine like the big, huge oil tankers. Every space had to be every space had to be, controlled. You had a Type 1, Type 2, Type 3 oil tanker. That means the bridge is in the front, in the middle, or the back. And what that means is kind of the layout of the ship. Now, we would explore every space, every hole, every crevice. If the fuel tanks were so many meters deep, and we hit a weld, and it was 15 meters less, then you're hiding something, that kind of a thing. So, when we would find these things, the first thing we would do, like once we boarded the ship, we would find. Obviously, the crew get a good head count. Always get a head count. There were passports available. Somebody's got to take them back to the, our ship, and they can, do their investigation on that. But once we would find these washing machines or Jeep Cherokees, because I remember going into a Jeep Cherokee, cutting the engine on, just to film AC, because it was so nice. It's I guess I think I'm pretty sure the command at that time, because like once they were in the Kaminsky guard ship duty in that box, they can go anywhere else, and then the command would get hold of that, and I'm not sure actually what they would do with it. But none of this stuff was legal. None of it was. It was all barter. It was all trade. It was all confiscated kind of stuff. Like no serial numbers, no what's the word? No connection. It was all trade. It's almost like trading.
So they would strip everything, every identifying mark off of it then, so that they wouldn't know where it came from.
Yes, everything was done. There were never any VIN numbers on the Jeeps or the trucks or anything. But it was a barge kind of a situation. So we would find all of these things. Like trucks. Washing machines. Really, like dryers and washing machines. That was the funniest thing to look and see, like a whole bay full of washing machines. And then Jeep Cherokees and Ford Explorers. We would see. You name it. It was there.
You probably found some military items on there as well every once in a while, not necessarily from the United States, but from other countries, possibly.
Yeah, well, we would find the old the best part that I can explain it. If you ever watched the MASH TV show, they would have those trucks on the side of the ship, and the only way that we could scale those was to go on the kind of rappel on the outbound side of the ship or the port side of their starboard side. And these things were filled, again, full of all kinds of stuff. You name it. So it was, we found everything. You name it. Clothes, phones. You got to the point where you knew there was always a box of Nokia phones. There's always those phones. Those phones were everywhere. And you had to find those phones. There's always like a big box of those Nokia phones somewhere on the ship, and that's what they were.
And every time they got captured, I'm sure they hated losing that cargo that they'd snuck around halfway around the world trying to get it somewhere else.
Well, the thing about it was, it's like everybody on the boats or the ships or the dhows that we boarded, even the biggest, even the oil tankers, they didn't know anybody from, on the bridge to engineering. Every person, what I kind of gathered, had no idea who the next person was. If you were engineering, you were in the engine room. If you were on the bridge, you didn't talk to anybody else. You just had that job, and that was it. And I remember seeing so much diversity on these ships. If you were out on the engine room, if you were on the bridge, or if you were doing whatever, you had no ties whatsoever, but just to get paid and stick to what you had to do, and that was your job. I remember having to watch one time. I bet you he was about 14 years old, and he had to take diesel fuel from a tank to another tank. And I remember watching him and having to follow him, this little kid, 14 years old, at least 14 to 15 years old, from one point to another point, to fill his generator. And nobody else on the ship really respected him, but he didn't know anybody else on the ship.
Right.
So it was it was a very strange place to see this kind of thing going on the boat. It was almost like a chaos going on the boat that was controlled at the same time. So.
And you would think it would be a little more controlled and where the people would interact a little bit more because of the fact that they're on a ship together for 9 months at a time, more than likely, or at least 6 months. And I didn't even realize, 14-year-olds could work on a ship.
I'll tell you this: we did a visit board search and seizures on one of these ships one time, and there were so many names and whatnot for the ships. I was with this cat. We called him Alabama. He had a really country accent. That's why we called him Alabama. Well, there was a cabin boy. That's what we called him. Guaranteed this kid probably was maybe 12 years old. And we go on these ships, oil tankers, we support everything. We attention to detail, whatever. So we know what's going on. And we get in there, and this kid is scared to death. And he walks into this cabin, and see, we're out on the outside of the ship. So we're looking through the porthole, and we can see what's going on in the room. And this big guy, this guy was 7 foot tall, made some passes, towards this little cabin boy. In Alabama, what we called him, he side of the window and said, "That's not going to happen today."
And that's the reason I figured they might have had that younger kid in the ship so that some nefarious things could go along with having the kids there, which just makes my skin crawl. It is.
And see, I will never forget it because, because I'm going to call him Alabama because I'm just going to give him a name. He had a 9mm, and he popped it on the side of the window in the porthole, and he goes, "Not today, not on my watch." And I would never forget that fact that I could see that little kid holding that tray of tea and some other on the some kind of platter. And this guy was huge. He was just a big-ass guy. I'm 6'5", and this guy was 6'7", like Sasquatch. He was just a big guy. And so, those were deadly things that we've seen boarding oil tankers.
And that probably made your skin. Yeah. That probably made your skin crawl every time you've seen something like that.
I mean, this has been. We're talking 12 years later. There's not a day. Sometimes that I don't think about whatever happened to you. But I mean, that's just one of those things. That you deal with. And you just kind of put it back there.
Right. You try to put it back out of your mind, but somewhere it's always back there where the memories pop up where, hey, I wonder if that kid made it out. I wonder if he's okay.
Yeah. But I will tell you a positive story if you do want to hear it.
Oh, definitely.
I think it was in Gulf of Aden somewhere. It was funny because I had a little classical guitar. It was a real small little guitar. Every time we knew we would either stay on these ships or whatever. If it was an oil tanker, we would be on there for 2 or 3 days at a time, which is not a problem. We had plenty of food and water and whatnot. But I managed to strap my cheap $99 classical guitar that I bought at an ABC store in Hawaii on my back. And we were on this tanker for a week for some reason, which was really longer than we ever should have been on it, because you either do a blue and gold team, which means you trade off watches, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, so to speak. And he was from Somalia, really nice guy. And the funny thing about these tankers is what a lot of people don't know is once you get hired onto a job, that's all you know. You don't speak, you don't do nothing. The master, or the captain of the ship, is the one who knows everything else. So if you're hired to cook, if you're engineering, or if you're on deck, That's all you do. You don't ask any questions. You know, that's just your job. And I met a really nice guy, and he was from Somalia. Really nice guy. And I remember sitting on the back of this oil tanker, and there were some oil rigs that were burning. They were burning pretty bad. There were, you know, flames and stuff. It was funny. And he's to my right. I'm in full gear. You know, I got everything, you know, that I ever need. And he's, you know, in his clothes and whatnot. He's to my right. And he had mentioned that he hated to see what was going on. And it was really ironic because I'm sitting here having everything that I need. I've got, you know, water, food, everything, you know, whatever. And he's got nothing, but he's comfortable. And then he asked me, he goes, I got some tea. Now, the first thing you don't drink anything off the boat or those boats. You don't, you know, whatever. You don't drink any, you don't eat any food, that kind of thing. And I took a chance, and he made me a cup of hot tea. And there was that point where two people, you know, from different points of the world were together drinking a cup of hot tea.
And that just shows that we Americans aren't the assholes that most people think we are.
I remember going back to the ship and buying some skivvies and T-shirts, and I think like 4 or 5 packs of smokes. You know, just giving them to them. You know, somewhere, you know, this guy's still living his life, hopefully, somewhere. But I will never forget that.